Episode Revenant is next, and man, I thought I would like it a lot more than I did. Episode Revenant is the defining season for people who want to criticize Destiny 2. Its blatant reuse of content, its overcomplicated items, and the most frustrating content in a very long time being led to the most filler of filler arcs. The first act of Revenant starts with a reused version of Onslaught. You know, the mode that was released for free less than a year ago prior with better weapons. I genuinely don't know what Bungie's strategy here was. Why would you give us a market downgrade that we actually have to pay for with some additions that change so little? I just don't understand. What made the original Onslaught so appealing to so many people was that it was new, the weapons were incredibly good, and overall it was fun and worth the time investment for the loot you got. The invasion parts where you had to go and attack the enemy and fight a boss was interesting as well because it changed up the whole horde mode concept a little bit. And the bosses themselves were fun. It was a good DPS check in between defending, meaning that you couldn't just focus on area of denial weapons, you had to focus on weapons that could deal DPS at a certain point as well. Onslaught also had shiny versions of the weapons that you could chase that not only looked different, but also had all the perks enhanced, making them really worth that grind. Onslaught Salvation, on the other hand, has a worse boss phase. The areas were cool at first, but they're really annoying to traverse, especially with the enemies that die and drop the icon that you have to destroy, having to move around this messy environment. The boss itself has the worst immune phases I've seen in a while, and it makes it fucking impossible to feel like you're dealing sustained damage when it gets cut off partway through your super. Onslaught Salvation doesn't add enough to feel new. We have the Shadow Legion and the Scorn with red eyes. Something that really annoyed me was that we didn't get some sort of shakeup in how the enemies work. It's supposed to be a vampire themed season, so give us some fucking vampire stuff. Certain Scorn hitting you that can cause a bleed effect. Red stasis effect that can slow you in a debuff called Cold Blood. That's just stasis, but it drains your shield, making them faster. Maybe make a Scorn that flies or something, that hangs upside down and shoots at you. Give me something besides copy-pasted enemies. Also, the loot is so incredibly bad. Like, we technically have shiny weapons, but they're more rare than shinies in OG Onslaught. And they don't even look different. Couldn't slap a few flames on here, maybe some red glow like the duality guns. But like, hey, you know what guys, come on, I think we're complaining too much. Games are supposed to be easy to make. That's why Elden Ring was such an expensive game that didn't take years to make. That's why Red Dead Redemption took no time at all to make. That's why everyone makes games, right? Because they're easy. Some dumbass in the Bungie office was probably like, hey, we need new gun designs for that new episode that comes out in like 2 days. And then the unpaid intern Pete Parsons routinely beats with his belt was like, fuck, and threw some metal shit on some guns from Forsaken and called it a day. These guns look like total ass, and it doesn't help that they're not even unique. Like, look, I can look past some gun models looking the same if the gun feels good to shoot or it's really powerful, but barely any of the weapons here do either of them at all. The only worthwhile weapons to me are the grenade launcher that has stasis and slide shot, as well as blinding grenades. The sniper rifle has a couple of good perks, and the hand cannon that just feels good. Besides that, in my opinion, there's nothing else that I give a single fuck about and I will not be grinding for. The splicer weapons are fine, but I don't care about the new Chroma Rush when I have the old one that still works incredibly well even now. Overall, the weapons we got at the start didn't do anything for me, and it's a precedent that will be commonplace throughout the entire season. Again, besides that stasis grenade launcher, it is genuinely the best weapon in the entire season. Onslaught Salvation had the benefit of some new stuff that you could buy using scrap to defend the objective. That's pretty much it. Onslaught Salvation at first was something that I was kind of lukewarm to. I thought it was alright, but now I don't understand why we even have this shit anymore. There was little to no benefit brought to the season with this mode. We also have the introduction of a ton of tonics. Basically just potion crafting, but it's shit. So we have volatile and enriching tonics. Volatile have gameplay changes and enriching have loot changes. Volatile tonics are less useful than a broken condom. While Devour is active, void weapons deal bonus damage. Okay, so just to get the thing to work, I have to use Devour. Why not make it so that void eliminations automatically apply Devour? This seems so incredibly pointless. The only one I could see myself using is as the finisher ones, but they fail to make any sort of notable change, so I don't care about them. Enriching tonics, on the other hand, give you more gear, but they also kept fucking it up. Apparently, gear specific to Tomb of the Elders wasn't dropping with the tonic equipped. There's a point where even legendary tonics weren't giving guaranteed loot. Like, are you fucking kidding me? These things were later fixed, but it's still annoying mid-combat to have to go back into your inventory and equip the damn tonic. It must be even worse for console players. Listen, while I'm not a fan of console players, and I hope Bungie drops a lot of you, especially on Xbox and PlayStation, I do feel kinda bad for you guys. Anyway, tonics would have benefited from, instead of a timer, being tied to the activity itself. So upon completion of the activity or encounter, the tonic is used up. Anyway, I don't like tonics. Let's move on. The story started decent, but it's the best it'll ever be. It revolves around the echo of Reese falling into the hands of Fickrel, the asshole who never dies. Although the Scorn are like alien zombies, the decision to go with vampires doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, the Fallen are already undead as Scorn, so are we gonna be able to cure them or something? Is it different now because instead of resurrecting dead Fallen into Scorn, they're like turned into vampires? I don't remember this being explained in the story, but it was a cool visual, I guess. Anyway, we capture Aramis again. Like, why don't we just kill this bitch already? And then Fickrel shows up and is like, Father. And Crow's all like, what? And then he turns all the Fallen in the helm into Scorn. Cool, I guess? And then he crashes his ship into the helm, and somehow a giant hole in the ship appears and starts sucking everything into the vacuum of space. Failsafe manages to bring the ship from Europa to the last city with a giant hole in it. Sure, I guess. This part is something I don't see many people talking about. Like, how the fuck do we make it all the way from Europa back to the last city? We can literally see Europa in the cutscene. I've even seen a few people say that only a portion of the helm was brought back after it crashed on Europa, but you can literally see the entire ship on top of the tower. Like, I get this is probably a minor issue for a lot of people, but when you just leave issues like this, it's usually not the last time you're going to see issues. Like, for example, Crow doesn't have a helmet on. How the fuck did he not instantly die? If the vacuum of space is sucking everything out, and that's going to be a rule that Bungie is going to follow, why doesn't Crow die? This is something that Bungie commonly does. They'll follow only the rules they want to about space, but they completely disregard the rest of the rules that follow logic when it comes to space. And anyway, we have a new change of pace from the ship interior of the helm for the past 3 years to a favela. It's an interesting place that there isn't a ton to do in. It's nice to go through and at least look at what the last city is from the ground. It's something we barely ever get to see. I've always wondered what the little ants down here were doing. Anyway, Fickrel is turning all of the Fallen into Scorn and wants to build a new undead army to outlast the Fallen. Mithrax wants us to kill Fickrel and save the last remaining Fallen from going extinct. This situation for them is somewhat dire, which I don't mind. Like, if we really wanted to, this doesn't really have to be our issue. But because some of our allies and our friends are Fallen, we have a vested interest in wanting to save them. It's a much smaller scale story that doesn't involve the end of the fucking world, because as much as Bungie wants to make us think that the Scorn are a threat, they just aren't. They don't have the coordination to conduct a massive attack akin to the Battle of Six Fronts, and they're honestly just cannon fodder. So focusing more on a story that's saving our alien friends seems like a pretty good idea. We're even given a new title to go by.
I name you my slayer.
Monster Hunter. The biggest issue I have with the story content is, unlike Echoes, all of the story stuff was released day one for each act. So running from person to place to person to activity to person is much more apparent of an issue here. During the first act, I did everything all at once and it just completely tired me out. So with every subsequent act, I kind of just went everything week by week, doing the activity again and doing a little bit of story stuff, but separating it by week so that I wasn't burning myself out. Also, for the nobody who remembers, during the Season of the Plunder, Mithrax used relics of Nezarec to create a tea to revive Osiris, but it also cursed Mithrax. If that sounded kind of retarded to you, that's because it is. And although this is never mentioned between now and Season of the Plunder, he is in fact cursed, and it definitely has huge consequences now. I guess. But yeah, so all of a sudden he has this curse and it caught up to him, and now he's big Angie. The final piece of content that I'm having a hard time calling it that is field work. You basically go to a place, do a patrol tier objective, and that's it. Maybe listen to Mithrax, crash out, but that's pretty much it. It's not that interesting. Now, before I finish off Act 1, there's also the exotic weapon. A stasis, primary ammo, breach loading grenade launcher, that's kind of alright. It leans into the support role with after killing a certain amount of enemies, a bar will fill, allowing the player to shoot either special or heavy ammo depending on the amount the bar is filled. But the thing is, we're just at a point in the game where getting special and heavy ammo has never been easier, and when we already have exotic armor that helps spawn ammo to an even higher degree, I question to see how useful this weapon truly is. It doesn't synergize very well with stasis builds either, so it's kind of stuck in that difficult area of not being good enough as a support weapon, while also not being good enough as a stasis weapon. It kind of just makes it hard to use in any build long term or in any endgame activity.
Act 2 is not much better to me. We have a new activity called the Tomb of Elders. It's not like the Prison of Elders, to make that clear. We basically go into an arena, kill some enemies, maybe with a small objective, and move on to the next one, but during these arena encounters, the Warden will drop a Warden challenge. Maybe kill a reused trickster enemy by taking out the holograms and finding the real one, or kill a certain number of enemies before the timer runs out. Failing to complete the objective lowers the Warden's favor, meaning less loot at the end of the activity. When you finish an arena, you have to run to the next one, and sometimes there will be an encounter in between running to arenas. Maybe that's get to the end as fast as you can, or kill a certain enemy on your way to the end. There's always something you have to do that can boost the Warden's favor. Arenas and encounters are not only just not that interesting, but they're also the exact same every single time. Maybe the order of set encounters is different, but when you go into an area, it's going to be pretty much the same thing every single time, making multiple runs feel honestly really boring. I was never really enjoying myself when running this activity. The only time I really had fun was between encounters when you do those small challenges running from arena to arena. Sure, they're just small objectives, but they weren't guaranteed, which made it much more interesting when running between objectives. You don't know if you're going to get one of them or not. The bosses are also not that interesting. They're pretty much just strike bosses, and that's it, which I kind of expect a bit more from a seasonal activity. Maybe give them a few abilities or something like that. Something to spice up the boss fights a bit, because besides that, they're not that interesting. I'm not exactly clamoring to do the same objectives over and over and over again, especially when my teammates are fucking retarded. I'm so curious into what these people's brains are like who can't figure out the most basic objective of picking up a bunch of fucking icons and banking them somewhere to start the boss fight. Like, how do you operate in society that you're this fucking stupid? So what about the loot? Well, it's still terrible. We got a new submachine gun, which feels terrible to use, and a shotgun, which is fine. The perks are awful for PvE, but just decent in PvP. The pulse rifle from Splicer is good, but it's from Splicer, so it's going to be good. It feels good, it sounds good, unlike all of the new weapons they added. Genuinely, without the Splicer weapons, the hand cannon, and the grenade launcher that they added, there wouldn't be anything worth getting in this entire episode. And again, the weapon models are reused from the Forsaken area with some rusted shit slapped on top. They're not fun to use, they're not good looking, and they aren't powerful. Complete filler garbage that I cannot be fucked to use beyond this video. For the story aspect, we have Fickrel heading to the Tomb of Elders to bring back Skolas. To be fair, the cutscene showing off this is amazing. Probably no joke, this is the best part of the entire episode. The cinematography is excellent, the framing is awesome, the music is great. It's just such a joy to watch. In fact, I'll throw the whole thing up here just so that you can watch it for yourself.
Skolas, he lives. Do you see it, Guardian? Memory of Reef Wars long ago. Years of hubris and bloodshed. The fallen House of Wolves, led by Skolas the Rabid. The song. A whirlwind dirge, a seeking song for the lost. But, Lyrics does not recognize the singer. The echo. It is the echo that sings to us, Guardian. Sings of Reese through our memories. It seeks an old strength. Strength to guide the scattered through a time of doubt and wrath. But it sees now how Fikrul wields its power. False life for an army of the slain, with those like Skolas for his pawns. The echo seeks another wielder. It demands one who is worthy.
That was fucking awesome, right? Anyway, bringing back Skolas shouldn't be a huge surprise in an episode with nothing but reused assets and ideas, especially when the Prison of Elders is technically coming back. It's no surprise that Skolas made his return. Although, it kinda stings a little bit, because now it feels like defeating him during Prison of the Elders in Destiny 1 was basically for nothing. We just have to go and do it all over again. And I tried real fucking hard to beat Skolas. I got the ship and everything. But Skolas returning is far from the worst part. So for some context, during Season of the Seraph, Aramis literally pointed super weapons at the fucking Traveler and flipped a switch to destroy it. If it wasn't for Rasputin making the decision to end his fucking life, Aramis would have very well destroyed the Traveler, leaving us completely vulnerable to the Witness and his forces. So I ask one simple question.
Why are we trusting this bitch?
It makes zero sense to me and leaves me in a state of complete confusion regarding the moral lines of Ido and Crow. And you know what? I fucking hate it. We should have killed this bitch on sight during Beyond Light, Plunder, Seraph, and even now. We should blow this fucker's brains out. But no! Instead, we set her free from prison and she goes to take the echo from Fikrul. This literally feels like letting Diddy out of prison after we all know about him oiling up children. So why does the echo even choose Aramis? Because she was around when Reese was? Well, fuck, so was Varix, and he wants to rebuild Elixni culture. He knows the history and the tradition exceptionally well. He's only done right by his people. Besides the whole, like, letting Aldrin out, but we don't talk about that. Aramis, on the other hand, has corrupted the Fallen with stasis, subjected them to the will and the torture of the Witness, and nearly blew up their fucking god. It's genuinely such an awful choice to make her the one who gets the echo. There are so many characters that deserve it so much more than she does. Now we have the final act, which isn't much better in any aspect. We have two new weapons, a scout rifle and a rocket launcher. They both still look terrible, and the perks are okay. Nothing new or interesting we don't already have better versions of or haven't seen before. Hell, we literally had another stasis scout rifle earlier in the episode, which is rated higher than the seasonal one on Light GG, which is so fucking funny to me. Instead of another activity, we had yet another exotic mission, which isn't hard at all, nor engaging, nor that interesting. I swear, the only fun part is that there's a timer when you jump through the portal. That's it. Going into the portal world kind of looks like shit. It looks like unused assets or models that aren't textured. It doesn't make me think, ooh, wow, how trippy. It makes me think, okay, so you couldn't think of anything, so they just didn't add textures? That's most certainly a decision to make. There isn't even a timer for the entire exotic mission, only when you jump through this portal here. You were so close. Why the fuck couldn't you figure this out? I was kind of hoping more would be done with this Oregon instrument at the start of the encounter. Like having to press certain keys while under pressure and being shot at sounds way better and much more engaging to me. But it's done for a little puzzle at the start, and that's pretty much it. And again, just like episode Echoes, the story content requiring you to do the most repetitive shit was the most egregious part of this entire act. Having to do the exotic mission not just once, not just twice, but 3 fucking times to finish the story had me exhausted and not wanting to do it again, since it is so incredibly boring. It's not even like the Seraph Station exotic mission, which is actually a lot of fun to play through and quite difficult. This is honestly really easy. Once you know where to go, it's a fucking walk in the park. And the game telling me to do the same mission again and again and again in order to progress doesn't make me want to do it. This is an exotic mission though, so you do get an exotic weapon out of of it. And how is it? Well, it's an exotic shotgun, of which we don't have a ton of, so more the better. It's fun to use, it's definitely a very unique weapon that I had some fun with, but I can't say I've used it enough to really tell you if I loved it or not. It's a really cool weapon that looks cool with a cool concept and a unique reload animation. It's not amazing or game-changing, like it's not another Wither Horde, but it's not terrible, and I definitely plan on using it a lot more than the Stasis Grenade Launcher from Act 1. Besides that, how does the story conclude? Well, after doing the exotic mission again and again and again, we eventually get a COVID vaccine to kill Fickrell once and for all. So we do the mission one last time and inject him with the big vaccine, and he dies. Yay! Then Aramis pulls up, takes the staff with the Echo, and is all like, wow, this thing is an echo of old Reese, as if we didn't already fucking know that. Then Mithrax gets all fucking roided up and gigamad, and unleashes his ultimate Andrew Tate to start beating the fuck out of women. Nezarec starts coming out of him and shit, and we're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Well, then Aramis just shoots Mithrax with the Echo Staff, and Nezarec is gone. Again. The end. Can you tell how little I cared about the ending of this? Revenant was overall pretty terrible. The story was bad, the weapons are bad, the activities are bad, and there aren't really any redeeming qualities. There are some minor things here and there, like the cutscene, the exotic shotgun, the season pass armor, but it doesn't make up for repetitive missions, an awful story structure, and some interesting ideas that were executed poorly, and weapons so bland from all departments that I guarantee you will never see them again. Seasonal Destiny Syndrome was stronger than it's ever been with this part, especially since we got all of the weekly content all into one day, so it made it even more evident than it did with Echoes. There are also a few people that are also probably going to ask, well, what about Vesper's host? Well, first of all, it's not part of the episode's content, so it doesn't count. I also didn't buy the dungeon pass, so fuck off.